Hi, everyone. Today in our English grammar class, we are going to be talking about pronouns. Pronouns are something that we all use every day when we talk and when we write. So, since we use them, it's a good idea to learn what they are. It is especially important for people who are learning English. When you learn what pronouns are and start using them properly, you will be well on your way to becoming fluent in English. So, let's talk about pronouns. One of the number one rules in English when you are speaking or writing is to try your best not to use the same word twice in one sentence. At least the big important words, the subject, the verb, the object. And so it's important to understand the role of pronouns and how they can substitute for these big important words in your sentences. You know, of course, when we use the word and but and a and the, those words, it's okay to repeat. But for the big words, we want to try and avoid repeating them in the same sentence and even into the next sentence. The second sentence that you say, try your best to avoid repeating a big word in the second sentence and maybe even the third. After you get to the fourth sentence, you can start repeating some of the words that you used in the first sentence. But your nouns, your subject, your objects, and even your verbs, we want to try our very best not to repeat those. We want our speech and writing to have a good variety of words and not be repetitive. For example, we would never want to say something like, Bill went to the market to buy some food for Bill because Bill was hungry. It's just too many bills, right? So instead of repeating Bill 3 times, we just say it once at the beginning of the first sentence. So we identify who the subject is, and everybody knows that now we're going to be talking about Bill. But after that, we use substitute words to stand in for the other 2 bills. Now our sentence will go something like this. Bill went to the market to buy some food for himself because he was hungry. Which words are the pronouns? That's right. They are himself and he. Instead of repeating Bill in our sentence, we used other words to substitute for Bill, put in the place of Bill, so that we're not repeating ourselves over and over and over again. These substitute words are what we call pronouns. Let's take a look at another example. Let's extend the no repeat rule over 2 sentences. Let's say that you are telling me about your brother James. You might say, James loves to play the guitar. James told me the other day that James is going to join a band and go on tour. What is wrong with these sentences? it uses James too much. How could we fix it? Well, we can use pronouns to substitute for the last two uses of James. In the first sentence, we establish who our subject is. It is James. That is who we are talking about. It is clear who the subject is, and we don't need to say his name again for at least 2 or 3 sentences, so that we can then, maybe on the 4th sentence, remind people who our subject is. But in between, we want to use substitute words, pronouns. Now, when you try to fix this sentence, or 2 sentences, some people might say, James loves to play the guitar. My brother told me the other day that James is going to join a band and go on tour. That might be a way that some people who are still learning English might try and fix this sentence. The problem is that unless I know you very well, and I know that James is your brother, I might think that your brother was the one who told you about James going on tour. So you can see how I might become confused if I don't know ahead of time that James is your brother. So a better solution is to use pronouns. Here's what your sentence would be like using pronouns. James loves to play the guitar. He told me the other day that he is going to join a band and go on tour. In this case, it is okay to repeat the pronoun he twice. Pronouns are our friends. They help us not to repeat ourselves so much. And the reason why that we study pronouns is because there are lists of pronoun words that you can use over and over again, no matter who you are talking about or what you are talking about. Once you learn this short list of words, you will then be able to use them whenever you talk about anyone or anything in English. Let's take a look at an example. When we are talking about people, all we need to learn are 11 words. And then we will have the pronouns that we need to talk about anyone without repeating the name of the subject or the people. Learn just 11 words and you will be ready to talk about anyone. Would you like to know what they are? Let's take a look. And we'll be reviewing this list many times in the future, but for today, let's just get acquainted. The first one I want you to notice are pronouns that you will use when you talk about yourself. You will use I and me as pronouns to substitute for saying your own name. There's kind of a rule in English that you should know about, and that is it's important not to talk about yourself in the third person, as if you were talking about someone else. If your name is Sally, you would not say, when talking about yourself, you would not say, yesterday Sally caught the bus into town. People would be confused by that. They might think that you are talking about another Sally, some other person, because it's not normal for English-speaking people to talk about themselves using their own name. And so, instead of using your own name, you should say I or me when you're talking about yourself. When you're talking about someone else, use these words. She or her, if you are talking about someone who is female, a girl, or a woman, use she or her to substitute for the person's name. You use he or him if you are talking about someone who is male, a boy, or a man. He or him. And I just might point out here that it is important to learn the difference between these two. She, her, for women. He, him, for men or boys. If you don't use this correctly, if you use he or him when you're talking about a girl or a woman, or her and she when you're talking about a man or a boy, English speakers will get confused. You know, I see this all the time when I travel and work with translators. We'll be doing an interview with a woman, and the translator keeps calling the woman him and he. He did this, he did that. And then we might go next door and interview a man, and the translator will keep referring to the man as she. She did this, she did that. And at first, when I first started doing videos in other countries, I was confused. Was the translator already now talking about another story of someone else? It can cause a lot of confusion if you mix these two types of pronouns up. And so it's important to learn the correct one, or your friends will be confused when you're talking to them. And it doesn't have much to do with how much vocabulary you know. I'm often amazed and impressed by how much my translators know. They're using big English words, and a lot of them. It makes me think that they have been studying English for years and years, and yet they get this one simple thing wrong. They call men she, and they call women he. He did this. And it's a little confusing to work with people that don't get that right. I mean, after a while I caught on, and I just didn't pay any attention to that anymore, and I understood that this is a common thing that translators get wrong all over the world. It seems to be a very common thing. Probably when they were first learning English, their teacher didn't make a point of explaining how important it is to get this one right, because it can cause a lot of confusion if you don't. And so I would like to encourage you to take a little extra time and get this one point right. What are they again? When you're talking about women or girls, what is the right pronoun to use? That's right. It's she or her. When you are talking about men or boys, what is the right pronoun? That's right. It is he or him. What about when you're talking about a group of people? What pronouns could we substitute for a group of people? They might be some women in the group. There might be some men in the group, some boys, some girls. Is there a pronoun that we can use that covers everybody in a group? Yes, there is. It is they or them. They or them refers to a group of people, and it can be boys, girls, men, women, and it doesn't matter their gender. They can be all women, you still use they or them. It can be all men, and you still use they or them. It can be a mix, men, women, girls, boys, a big group of people. We still refer to them in the same way, they or them. Now, what if you are one of the people in the group? Does that change anything? Does that make a difference? Well, yes. If you want your English-speaking listener to know that you are a part of the group, then you need to change the pronoun. You would no longer say they or them. You would say we or us. So there you have it. That's 10 words. 10 key words in the English language that will help you keep from repeating yourself. You learn these 10 words and you will be well on your way to becoming fluent in English. Now, there's just one more pronoun that I want us to learn before we close this lesson, and that is the pronoun that you would use when you're talking about the person that you're speaking to. You're addressing them or you're talking about them. And when you do that, if you want to substitute the person's name with a pronoun, you use the word you. You've probably heard me say you over 100 times, even in just this short lesson. I'm talking about you. I'm talking to you. And so because I don't know your name and there's maybe 1,000 different students watching this, I can't use your names, your individual names. So instead I use a pronoun, you. And when you're having a nice conversation with people, you wouldn't want to say their name over and over and over again. So instead, you use the substitute pronoun, you. When you're talking to Paul, you wouldn't normally say, "Did Paul have his cup of coffee this morning?" People might say it this way when they're trying to be funny or make a joke. But the more proper English is, "Did you have your coffee yet this morning?" So there you have it, a list of 11 words that you can use a lot when you speak in English. I encourage you to spend time and learn these 11 words very well. These 11 words actually make up a group of pronouns called personal pronouns. Personal because they talk about people. Personal pronouns. There are other groups of pronouns that we will talk about in future lessons, but you have just learned the first group, personal pronouns. Study them, learn them. I'm going to put them in a list in the description below this video. Just look down there. You'll see a list. I've created the 11 words there so that you can look at them and study them at any time. Well, that's our lesson for today. I hope you liked it. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this lesson. If you found the lesson helpful, please give it a like. Just click on the little like button there. If you have friends that are also learning English, please let them know about this channel. And if you have not already done so, I invite you, using the personal pronoun for you, I invite you to subscribe today. Once you have subscribed, YouTube is more likely to place my new videos in your, that's another pronoun, in your YouTube feed. And we do have a lot more lessons on grammar coming, and you don't want to miss those. So go ahead, subscribe, and for now, we'll say so long. Bye. See you. Farewell.